an enemy of Forgiven. So him coming back in the scene since he was gone for the summer split is going to be really interesting because I feel like he was kind of miles ahead of me in spring split. So showing up in the spring split this time around will be really important because I do want to beat him because I feel like he was just so far ahead of me in spring split last year. And I didn't deserve to win it when I got so outplayed by him every time, and he didn't deserve to be where he was at the time because he was probably the best AD we had in Europe back then. But nowadays, I don't know. I think I've grown a lot. Maybe he has as well. So we will see. But he'll be my biggest enemy for sure this split.
Oh, we're gonna see now the rivalry between Reckless and Forgiven on the Rift. Welcome back to our final match of the week here in Berlin as two of the best teams in Europe, Elements and SK Gaming, prepare to face off. Now, these two squads will only meet once more before the end of the split, so a win here could set one team's pace for weeks to come. We're gonna start off with the lineup for Elements on the blue side. In the top lane, Wicked, we have Shook, Froggen in the mid lane, at AD carry, Reckless, supported by Nif and their coach Mart. Elements are coming into this one. Yesterday they had a very convincing win and a very aggressive win, which is not something we see from that often, which could have set them up for this one.
Yeah, you know, Meet Your Makers, they're struggling. They have Corey back. They're not performing to the levels that they want to. But that doesn't take anything away from the fact that Elements were so coordinated and so aggressive. Something that's a bit unconventional with their team. They tend to play a lot safer, tend to sit back. But you look at how they tower dove the inner mid turret towards the mid-late stages of the game. Elements were relentless, and it's something I'd like to see more of from the team.
Yeah, and Reckless must have gotten a huge confidence boost yesterday as well coming to this one. Even looking at the video, I think he really also needs a boost because he knows how strong Forgiven has been playing. And that's actually our featured matchup for this one. How can it differ? Be the 80 carries going up against each other. How do you think it's going to work out?
I have to give the advantage to Forgiven, but only basing on the fact that I've played with that guy and I have huge respect for him. I think Reckless has grown as a player, obviously, since Spring Split of last season when they met one another. But Forgiven still has his edge because he has an inner drive that just translates to his teammates too. So it's not just that he makes himself look good and the bottom lane look good, but he also makes his team overall just look better because he's the driving force behind it.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I'm also interested to see how Nif and Enrated are going to match up against one another because you've got these two superstar AD carries who are in some ways very similar, but then you look at the supports and they're completely different. Nif is playing a lot more meta champions. Enrated is playing the supporty. The Lulu has been his most successful champion thus far, and I really want to see how the duos pair up. If we are lucky enough to get the head-to-head, we might be more likely to see a lane swap.
Yeah, very good point, and amazing. You summed it up yesterday at the end of the show. You said all the storylines are coming together here. One of those is Shook, that also had a very impressive game yesterday on Rengar. Yeah,
Shook is just Jekyll and Hyde, basically. One game, he will completely trash the opponent. We saw that it was Najin Whiteshield back at Worlds. And we saw it yesterday. This 5-1-19 Rengar coming in, perfect kill participation, perfect play on the mid lane, shutting out Corey, allowing Frog to snowball and roam off of lanes. That's the Shook that people want to see and expect to see when they see Elements. And he just has to show up every game like that, and they would actually probably be the unbeatable team. But that's up to him and the consistency that he has to bring in.
We'll see if they're unbeatable in this one because they're up against SK Gaming on the red side. Let's take a look at their lineup. Freddy122, Svenskeren, Fox, Forgiven, and rated and coached by Inner Flame. Now, they won, but H2K had quite a showing yesterday. SK had to get back in the game. Can they defeat that record? They are the only team that's undefeated in here. What will it come down to?
Can they defend their record? Yes. Will they defend their record? No, if Elements play like yesterday. I think when you look at these two teams, SK Gaming has been performing at a higher average level across all of their games, but I also feel they have a slightly lower skill ceiling than Elements. I think if Elements play at their best and SK play at their best, I think Elements are just marginally better than that of SK.
Yeah, I completely agree, actually. As I said, that Shook is one guy that can actually carry a game solo. We saw it back when he was on CW, still in the challenge scene. He had really great games, and his skill ceiling, like everyone described him when he came into the scene as the guy that could potentially be the best jungler in Europe. And he has shown that potential. If he actually is able to call that up and translate it into leads onto lanes, maybe not even just Frog, but also maybe the bottom lane, maybe get Wicked rolling for once. That Alliance team or Elements team now is a scary team to see.
When we were talking after the Fnatic game to Yellowstar, I asked him, who do you think is going to win? He called it out for Elements. One of the things that the Fnatic coach also said, SK Gaming is really good, but they have some things that can be exploited by the enemy team. One of those things that comes to mind might be Vision.
I agree, and it is one of these things which is very interesting. SK have this policy where if they're not going to be playing deep or they don't intend to play aggressively, why invest in deep wards? And Rated actually said the words, we don't need vision when we've got brains. And while it has worked for them against most of the other squads, there's a very limited number of teams that can punish you if you don't have the wards up or you don't play with all of the information. Elements could be one of those teams, but like we said, they've been so shaky in their 5 games leading up to this matchup, it's hard for me to say it will be punished.
Yeah, because it is actually really interesting that SK Gaming is a team that is undefeated at the top of the table, yet we seem to be leaning towards Elements. We also haven't touched on Freddy 122 in that top lane, on Svenskeren, and on that synergy, which might be a very important one for SK to get the upper hand here.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we saw Rickard struggling in the early weeks of the season where he was basically shut down, had a horrific game, honestly, versus Fnatic, was 3-13. And if Freddy and Svenskeren are able to shut down Wicked the same way that Huni and Reyno were able to do that, it's going to look scary for Elements.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think my eyes are going to be on Fox this particular matchup. I really want to see how he matches up against Froggen. Fox has performed pretty well, but I think he's also looking very good because his whole team is looking very good. This could be the game where each individual player is tested more than they have been up until this point.
Yeah, I got to ask you guys, predictions, Elements or Fnatic? Go.
Elements or SK?
SK, oh my god. We're talking so much about it. Yeah. I'm so hyped for this game.
It's fine. I think Elements, but only because Shook had such a great game yesterday, and when Frong also gets rolling, it's like I think he outclasses Fox to a certain extent, because Frong is probably the best mid laner in Europe right now. And if he can get the ball rolling together with Shook, that's going to be really scary.
I think SK is going to win because I don't think Elements can play near perfection 2 games in a row.
All right, well, we will find out. Without further ado, let's kick it over to Pyro and the Fish Show for Champ Select.
Thank you, Shocks. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. This is the big matchup for this week. A fantastic showdown. Every one of these matchups, every lane, the jungle. I'm so excited for this. There's so many crossover champion picks as well. That pick ban alone is going to be crazy to Fishio.
Yeah, and I really want to see if Elements is going to do what they did yesterday. Focus on the mid lane, because that's the only lane where I see Elements being stronger than SK. So camp for Froggen, get him going so he can carry your team to victory.
Yeah, we'll see if they can pull it off again. Can they take down the so far unbeaten SK Gaming? We get into picks and bans right here for Elements versus SK. Zed taken off the board, no surprises. Froggen likes an easy mid lane.
Yeah, 3 bans towards Zed from Elements in the past, actually 4 bans, sorry, with the one yesterday. So they really like to target that one. And Lulu as well, trying to push N-rated off his comfort zone. SK loves to lane swap with Lulu and then fast push down these turrets very early. Elements removing that strategy.
A lot of mid bans actually being spent here. Of course, there's the Kassadin flex pick, but we have mostly seen it in the mid. So exclusively those champions so far. Let's see what else they take off the board. There's the Nidalee. Svenskeren had the biggest impact in all the Nidalee games we saw yesterday and so far, so that'll be unavailable to SK, but this leaves a lot of champions still open. What does SK ban as their last?
And I really feel like Nidalee had to be banned by Elements because SK are so good now in the early game, in the laning phase, and Svenskeren is so aggressive. He invades into the enemy jungle every single time, and wow, Graves' first pick. It's been the most played champion for both Reckless and Forgiven. So far, the first battle has now been won by Elements by getting the Graves.
See Reckless with that little smirk there. He knows he wanted that one. So
give up a lot of picks for this,
of stuff. Yeah, Nar's available, Jarvan's available.
Together.
You mentioned before there's been some counterplay available for it, but still, I mean, you give up a lot just to take this Graves away from Forgiven and to give it to Reckless.
Oh, I see it's open.
Ah, yes.
We have so many power picks open. That's why actually Elements can take Graves, because there are still so many strong picks left that even though SK will get 2 of them, plenty for Elements. Janna open as well if you want some disengage on the support. Obviously both the Leona and Annie, the 2 heavy engage supports we have seen. And this is the first time we see a Zia in quite a while, because it used to be banned away here in Europe. He's just so strong. He's a flex pick, mid lane, top lane, doesn't even matter. Good lane matchup, very strong in the lane swap as well. Freddy, he loves to be 1v2 in those lane swaps. Could go for him.
Yeah, Svenskeren, as the timer ticks down, does grab himself the Jarvan. So Gnar's still up here, but there's so much more. I mean, this is really interesting. Froggen's going for the Lissandra. Thinking about it at the very least, he had a great performance on it yesterday. Of course, it could also go to Wicked.
Again, it is a flex pick. It's what we often see here. You don't tell too much by your early picks. Graves is very common here in Europe as the #1 AD carry. Strong laning phase, strong mid game. And also Reckless loves to actually sit in a side lane, and he farms till he's level 11. So he hits that massive power spike of getting, of course, 2 items completed and rank 2 of your ulti. And then you look for team fights from the side of Elements, and that's what he likes to do. I think SK Gaming has to look out for in this game. But for now, Elements still thinking. So many picks open, it's almost impossible to start predicting what's going to get locked in. And Rengar again for Shook. Lissandra is open then later on for Elements to do exactly the same combo they did yesterday, where Froggen was playing Lissandra and Shook was playing Rengar and just camping that mid lane.
And another hard engage support for Nif here. This time it's Leona, but the Graves Leona lane definitely has some serious inbuilt synergy there, as well as a lot of roaming potential. SK taking their time to find an answer.
Yeah, normally when Forgiven can get Graves, he locks in Lucian, and he tries to play the same way, very aggressive in these mid-game teamfights, dashing in and out, and has this fantastic ability to always find farm on the map and get ahead of his get ahead of the other AD carry.
It's going to be hard to do against Reckless, though.
Yeah, he's an AD carry who used to do exactly the same last year, where obviously Forgiven was not in the LCS during the summer split, and he will go towards that Lucian pick for him, so no real surprise here.
Also, Fox's Ahri too. I like this if they do go for it. There's a lot of catch and a lot of poke.
But honestly, Elements, they can go Lissandra again.
It's true.
There's no disengage on the side of SK. Janna could be a potential last pick for them, but Lissandra Rengar, the same combination we saw yesterday, can be locked in by Elements. And then Wicked. He's going to have to deal with Azir in the top lane. Aurelia is actually banned away, so never mind that point for me. But now it will still be open if you just want a fairly standard tank.
Yeah, they have that potential. Elements taking their time as well, but this is not unusual for them too. They tend to take the full clock rotation out and debate what they want. Here, once again, against SK Gaming.
If they do take the Gnar, I think we're going to see a lane swap coming in from Elements, because that's a very, very tough lane against Azir. All right, so we get again the Lissandra, as we talked about for Froggen. Same comp between him and Shook, so look for a lot of ganks in this mid lane, especially after level 6 from Shook. Rumble into Azir is a very risky matchup though by Wicked, because Azir will take full control of that lane and just poke him out.
Yeah, Wicked's been a bit of a mixed bag too. He had a really great performance on the Gnar yesterday. However, they've been a bit shaky in some of the other matchups, so I want to see how he does with this Rumble.
Yeah, and I think that's why he's actually locking in Rumble, because you don't really need too many items on it. You don't have to completely out-farm the other top lane. You just need your early magic penetration, and you are very useful in team fights. And because, again, there's so much AoE, CC, and engage from Elements, it's all about just flying in there in the mid-game. Every single champion has some sort of AoE, and you just smack it down on SK Gaming if they get caught out of position. Janna needs to be the lock-in from Rated here. They need to get some disengage to stop Elements from diving onto them. Morgana would be the only other option for him.
Yeah, I think that made the most sense. They do lock it in. Now the comps are filled out. Another squishy composition from SK, but they've been trusting it so far, and it's yet to lead them astray.
Yeah, and 2 comps that spike very hard in the mid-game. AD carries, mid laners, same deal. And obviously the Rumble pick from Elements, meaning here for SK, do they manage to go late game? Azir will completely outscale a Rumble. That could be the go-to tactic, but normally when we see SK play, they don't sit back and wait. They will aggressively push every single lane, get down these outer turrets and use them, and the minions obviously pushing further into the enemy territory to get that extra information and vision, because they don't really buy the wards. But honestly, if you don't buy wards against this comp from Elements, you're going to get engaged on again and again, and you won't know what's hitting you.
You'll be in some trouble, and you definitely won't if you can't see it. So we'll see maybe if they change that up just a little bit
They
here.
have to.
They're undefeated so far. They're still facing down a very tough team in Elements who did have that one early loss, but they hadn't lost until then. This is such a tough order for both teams, I feel like, to face off against one another. And their styles are so interestingly kind of mix and match up here, because SK is going to want to fight this out, but they have to go and get the damage down early against this comp. We'll see how it works out for them with those picks locked in. Let us know if you still think either Elements or SK are going to take this one with the hashtags ELWin or SKWin. Tweet those at LOL Esports. I think you'll have something to say. The crowd certainly does. As this game is getting ready to get underway, they're excited. The stamps, the claps. It is the final game of the day and the final game of week 3. Elements versus SK Gaming, and here we go, onto the Rift.
And these two comps here will give us a very explosive game. Alliance, Elements, obviously, used to be Alliance. All about getting in that hard engage. Massive AoE coming in, massive amounts of CC, where SK, they want to disengage first, and then you can re-engage later once the ultis are gone from Wicked, ultis are gone from Froggen. That's when you want to fight. So N-rated on this Janna here. He needs to play it perfectly in these team fights. And SK have to invest into some wards so they can see the Rengar coming. You need those pink wards down, otherwise he can just catch you out.
Bit of an early invade here for Elements. Not placing down too many wards just yet, but they've got plenty of time to do that. As this game starts off, you see Reckless making the move himself. Does do that one. So you mentioned the potential lane swap ability here, and they are going to be on the lookout for just one.
Yeah, again, Elements looking for that lane swap against SK. Tough lanes all around, both in the bottom lane and obviously in the top lane. For them, if N-rated once again times the Hurricane correctly, he will be able to stop Nif from engaging onto him in the lane. And this one actually stayed alive. Let's see what we get. Still staying on the top side of the map from Elements. A lot of pings going on, yeah.
But also, you see Forgiven and hanging back at the very edge of all that.
So they're trying to wait for the ward to disappear, but they couldn't wait long enough because the minions were already on their way to the lane. So they have to go in there and actually start either setting up their freeze, which it doesn't look like they want to do. Instead, gonna actually do crooks for themselves. Knowing that now they've been spotted by Elements, so they know Elements have now gone down to the bottom wave, and it's too late for them to set up a freeze anyway for Forgiven and N-rated. So they just take some extra XP and gold before they go over to this lane, which is gonna be an empty lane anyway, with Reckless and Nif in the bottom lane.
That one starts off. Freddy, dueling it out. Oh, pretty low against those Raptors, actually.
This is a very standard style though by SK in terms of lane swapping. They always get a camp for Freddy, so he gets early level 2. He goes back to base, often buys a ward with it or some potions, and then he teleports down to the bottom lane or runs all the way down to the bottom lane, depending on how much pressure there is from the minions. And then he basically sits there in a 1v2 situation. He doesn't get help from Svenskar normally. He doesn't get help from N-rated, because N-rated always wants to fast push together with Forgiven. So I want to see if Elements now has done their homework, knowing there's a very high chance of Freddy staying alone in the bottom lane, so you can dive him very easily with your jungler and your top laner. But now they're moving to the bottom side.
I think Reckless definitely discovered that just a moment ago. Already at half health, but Freddy's able to sustain up. Those biscuits definitely helping him out. On the other side of the equation, Wicked is not able to get to that top lane just yet. Still playing out the double farm game. Helps Shook out clearing the ward.
And look at the minimap here. Svenskar goes back to base. Do you want to go bot lane to help my top lane? Nah, not at all. I'm just going to go straight red buff here. Nif, N-rated is still sitting in the top wave or top lane, pushing it in with Forgiven, so there's no help from Freddy. And this is the first team to punish Freddy and SK Gaming from doing this very greedy lane swap, where he's basically left on his own. Normally he gets free farm, people don't punish him. Elements, they did this time around, forced him away from the turret. Still not enough, however. I'm not sure why Wicked and Shook is backing away now, actually allowing Freddy to go back in and pick up some farm, because he's going to get so far ahead compared to Wicked now.
Yeah, Wicked's...
It looks so good, and then they backed away.
Yeah, the Doran shield start too. He's going to be very behind in items if this keeps up for a little while. Forgiven and N-rated, still freely pushing the slow push up in the top. It's a little bit of a strange start here to this game.
Yeah.
Oh, they've caught Freddy though.
Freddy.
Here we go, Reckless, the damage isn't enough. He flashes, he dashes, and he gets away, but it was close.
That was a good catch, though, because Freddy wanted to try and save the tower. This one is going to go down. Notice how now SK let the tower kill all the minions, so they won't be pushing down towards Elements in this case. So they let the tower clean out everything. Nothing left for Wicked. Going to do another wave. And then, actually in this case, because they decided to kill this wave and not the tower, they're going to have to push it all the way down, because they can't wait for the tower to do all the work. So now they have to push it down to the second turret. Wicked will be able to get a lot of farm and XP, so not really sure why they actually touched this minion. They should have left it alone, finished off the turret, and then just backed away so the two waves would meet and actually be equally strong. And then Wicked wouldn't be able to pick up a lot of extra farm, which he will now when he's in the lane.
Back to the mid. Froggen dealt a bit of harass onto Fox, who's just able to not take any more backs away there. Nif and Reckless still zoning away Freddy, although he does get a little bit of poke and answer himself. He hasn't been able to pick up much farm here. It's very difficult against this deadly bot lane.
And right now, he just wants to save the turret, and Red is already here, so the tower will stay alive. Elements didn't push it hard enough because they went back into the jungle with Rumble and Rengar instead of trying to punish Azir here. So still an edge or advantage for SK. They got the turret, will be able to defend the next one, and BF Sword picked up for Forgiven, so he won't get pushed in this lane here.
Yeah, now we do finally get to see if he makes when he makes his move down here. He's already stated it once, best bot lane by far. Can he back it up?
Yeah, definitely a good start for him. Also with the tower giving him the extra gold so he could get the BF Sword, because Reckless right now is sitting on 1,300 gold for himself. So he can actually go back because he needs to get a BF Sword as well. That's why he's forced to stay in the lane, despite only having a Doran's Blade into the BF Sword of Forgiven. So he will lose a lot of CS. He will even lose a lot of HP on his tower when he's forced to go back, and a bad timing for him. So that tower really meant a lot for SK, getting that extra goal for Forgiven.
Yeah, nice movement there by SK Gaming, and of course, having that timely back, being able to defend.
Oh, this is not good for Reckless.
No, it is not indeed.
Realizing that he can't even stay in the lane, so he has to go back to base. Only gets the pickaxe instead of the BF Sword for Forgiven. So falling pretty far behind in this lane, and will still take a lot of damage. But Shook onto Svenskeren.
Flag and drag away, and a flash to top it off as Froggen scares him further back. Meanwhile, down bot lane, Forgiven. Unrated, poke it out, but Nif is still there for the defense.
And this really is the SK tactic. You fast push in the lane so to get the first tower, then you swap back down to the bottom lane where your tower is still alive because your top lane has played very greedy and he's staying alone and just trying to wave clear. If you manage to defend it, you get this edge here early on. We see for Forgiven now compared to Reckless. And then you just keep playing very aggressive. You keep pushing the lane over and over. Take the next turret. And once all the outer turrets are gone, because again you need the minions to push further into the territory of Elements, then it gives you more vision because they again can push in there. You don't get the wards down, but that's how you get your information. And these slow pushes, they're going to build up, become stronger and stronger, and more deadly as well, forcing Elements then to go back and defend. And that's how SK later in the game is going to just take over the map, at least from what we have seen beforehand, and just get all the dragons, time these minion waves really well, and play around them.
SK Gaming now going for a bit of jungle control, grabbing this blue buff. Hopefully giving that one over to Freddy, and Elements are none the wiser about it, so they get that one for free. Wicked, not been quite so starved on CS now that he's had a little bit of free time to himself. Freddy, and he will continue to trade it out just a little bit. Meanwhile, down in the bot lane as well, Reckless still looking for an in here onto Forgiven.
Yeah, not too surprising. Forgiven is the AD carry in the EU LCS who has their largest CS lead at 10 and 20 minutes on average in his games. Gonna be the same in this one. 13 CS ahead of Reckless, only 8 minutes in. That's really just because, again, the poorly timed back from Reckless here. Either you go back earlier before Forgiven shows up in the lane, get your pickaxe, or you stay for that BF Sword. Decided to go do something in between and therefore lost a lot of CS for it.
Yeah, and SK grabs that other blue buff too, so they've gotten both of the ones on the map here. Froggen not going to be able to have that regen. However, this has been a very quiet mid lane, not too surprisingly when Froggen's involved.
Yeah, and Shook, not level 6 yet, so he hasn't really been able to camp the lane. And we see obviously Ari playing very far back, respecting the gank from Elements, knowing that if I don't die right now, the rest of my lanes are doing just fine. And we definitely want to get this Azir scaling into the late game for Freddy.
Yeah, Shook had a pretty monster performance on Rengar yesterday. However, still below that level 6 threshold. Looks like he just gets it
now.
Perfectly timed. There we go. And now, let's see if he can make a difference.
Look at the pink ward here placed by Elements just behind the dragon. Allowing Shook to sit in there, pop his ulti, knowing there's no wards to spot him when he actually activates the stealth. He's going down towards the bottom lane, though.
And Rated smelled something was up. Moves right out of that brush.
And no wards, though, to spot it. Forgiven. Playing it safe and wise.
It's going to be just a bit of spent time for Shook. Meanwhile, Svenskeren is looking for Froggen, who will be able to make his great escape. Deny the kill in the mid lane.
That was very close. Froggen just managed to activate his claw and actually get out of there. Didn't have to blow anything. Didn't have flash. Didn't actually get to see when he used it.
Now the claw decides who lives and who dies.
Exactly.
Find the Scuttle Crab as well. Yeah.
Good. 82 gold for Svenskeren. And obviously now, notice as well how SK always plays around Dragon. Freddy will push out his lane, and then he's gonna walk from top lane down towards the mid lane. And then he sits in the mid lane and just keeps farming, keeps farming. If he's not needed at the Dragon, he just walks straight back to top lane, and he never stops farming, he never uses his teleport, he saves it, and because he's controlling the lane, it simply means that Wicked couldn't do anything to stop him from pushing it down. And first Dragon for SK. Once again, they've only given up 1 Dragon in the LCS.
Well, 2 now.
2 now.
True. Well, they traded the other one. Oh, you mean Elements, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, SK has only given up 1 Dragon so far in the LCS, if I'm correct.
I think there was one yesterday.
Well,
anyways.
2 Dragons then, who cares?
So they did trade one for a Baron. It was quite good. But SK Gaming, yeah, they have that impeccable control. And they have a lot of burst damage as well. Forgiven
is going to be able to take this tower once Reckless goes back to base, because Reckless is falling behind an item. Yep. And Forgiven keeps pushing. That's also why Svenskeren is showing himself in this bottom lane.
Shook's here too, though. They check a little too far forward. Forgiven.
Yeah, you don't want to take that 3 versus
but he knows
3
something
your elements. It's going to be a tower from SK very, very soon.
Svenskeren preparing to back away. This tower's starting to get
recalls.
fired down. If he does leave, yeah. It's dangerous.
Good.
It's a game of chicken in these brushes. Unsighted, of course. Froggen gonna head back to the mid. Wicked's actually moving here as well. This is gonna give some free farm over to Freddy. They'll just continue to trade that one out. So it's been a lot of searching, sniffing for openings for elements. SK have just gotten a little bit better of it thanks to that dragon.
Shook is sitting right in the mid lane.
Yes, he is.
No way for SK to spot him on his own turret. Oh,
Foxu does not connect the charm. The claw will not be followed up. Svenskeren was there. Oh, wait a minute. Fox goes a little far forward. There's first blood. All of a sudden, Shook is going to go ahead and grab it.
Exactly like yesterday. Same deal here. Shook sits at his own turret in the mid lane, pops his ulti, and Froggen obviously goes in and just locks down whoever he's playing against.
And an immediate pause.
We have to, of course, talk about how Shook yesterday, 100% kill participation on Rengar, highest KDA as well on day 1. Really, really looked good. And good start for him with this, with the first spot.
Yeah, they do pick that one up. So Shook really got rolling quite a lot. They were able to funnel that gold to him and get him quite ahead so he could make this big impact and make these big plays. Yesterday, that could be the start of something for Elements.
A little bit surprised we see Morel Nomic on first item on Ahri here. Typically, the new Ahri here in 5.2, when you play against double AP, you actually go Abyssal Scepter first. So you get that tankiness, you get, of course, the magic resist. And would try at least help you stay alive when Froggen makes these plays on you. But wasn't really the deciding factor this time around. He would have died anyway, no matter what.
Yeah, I think they had quite a lot of damage, and they even threw down the equalizer for just the insurance policy of all that. His health bar melted pretty quickly in that situation. And I feel like, despite that, of course, SK still doing pretty solid. They've still got a decent gold lead built up.
Yeah.
It's 2 towers to 1.
This
the one dragon. They're more proactive here, it seems.
It's actually 2 towers to 0 because it's an Azir turret.
Oh, that's right. Ah, it got me.
So SK, again, running the exact same early game as we've seen in every single game they played. A lot of focus on early pushing down these towers, getting the global lead, get the item advantage. That's, again, why they actually refuse to buy a lot of wards, because they feel like that gold should be invested into items, and you get ahead that way. It's a bit of a different tactic, but so far it has been working for them. And obviously, again, with the bot lane, Forgiven, being able to stay ahead of Reckless meant he just killed the bottom lane turret before we went to this pause. So 2 towers for SK, 0. Don't get fooled by this single Azir
It's
turret.
going to keep getting me every time
Yeah,
until
I mean, it will.
change, you know, but that's okay. So 2 towers, yeah, they've got a decent advantage in the objective game. They've managed to get themselves ahead by a dragon as well. So SK continuing that same tactic that has won them a 5-game win streak. And Elements, they're a team that likes to wait it out to the later stages anyways, to where they're feeling comfortable, to where Reckless and Froggen can step up and put on the carry pants. But does that just play into SK's hand while they just grab everything they want around the map?
Yeah, honestly, it will, because we know SK will take the dragons. They do it every single time, and we know with this Azir late game, they don't even mind going late.
Yeah, I really don't. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the analyst desk right now because the early game having some issues here. Let's check in with Shox and see what she has to say.
Yeah, the analyst desk is still here, and so are we, and it actually gives us an opportunity to break down what happened early in the game. And, well, SK taking their dragons early again, like they always do. And actually, SK Gaming doing what they always do in the early game, and you mentioned Elements should have seen that coming.
So far in every lane swap that SK has been doing, like, Freddy is going to get 1 camp. He's going to hit level 2. He's going to TP bottom, going to try to defend the wave. He has done so with Ken, he has done so with Azir now. What should have happened for Elements is that either they proxy the wave as 3 men, like have Leona roaming off of bottom lane, let Rackets basically be alone on the wave, push it in, and see what Freddy is doing. Like, if the wave is proxied, there's no way he can defend that turret because he's basically naked at the turret. So he's going to die. The other option would have been that Rumble stays around the area, allows Shook basically to walk back into the jungle and risk a 3v1 or a 3v2 dive. They had knowledge of Svenskeren starting bottom side because that is the greedy start that SK has been doing all season long. So there was no risk in it whatsoever, and they just forgot what to do, basically.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with that. SK have consistently done the same strategy in their lane swaps. Every time they have a lane swap, they do this greedy start that Amazing was talking about. Deficio spelled it out last week, literally. 3 minutes ahead predicting every single move that SK did, and they, like clockwork, they performed. The question is, SK is doing a good strat, they're punishing their opponents. Why is Elements not proactive enough? Why is it that we can sit on the desk, we can see it, Deficio can see it, Amazing can see it, but Elements in-game or not?
It could have a lot to do with their game planning. Like, they may be a team that sees the game on a different level. For example, they have the kill potential in mid, which they focus on maybe even a bit too much, but that's the game plan. Get strong rolling and have that going for them.
I've got a question about that mid plan. I'm not a particular fan of Rengar without some sort of movement speed buff in the comp. It is working for Elements. It worked yesterday. As a jungler yourself, what's your take on this sort of Rengar plus Lasana? Yes, it's scary, but what about the bigger picture, the bigger game as a whole? What's your opinion on the combo?
If the enemy team has some kind of disengage and actually is able to slow down the initial Rengar engage or the Lasana engage or maybe evade it completely, there's nothing that Froggen and Shook are actually able to do because, as you said, like there's no movement speed of coming in. There's no aftermath after the initial ults.
So if Enrated's on point and in Monsoons, that's the safety net for SK once they get into this mid game?
Exactly. Then once the QSS coming in for Grace or for Lucian in this case, like because he's playing Lucian. Sorry. Once that is coming in and Jenna is actually on top with her Monsoons and with her Qs, like the Q already, like if he hits that during the Rengar initial ult and the initial jump bowler, it's really hard for Elements to get an engage off.
Yeah, Reckles did steal that Graves away, as you've seen. We're not quite in the mid-game yet after the initial lane swap. We're in the standard lanes. Let's talk through that. The Rumble versus Azir matchup, Wicked might suffer in that one.
Yeah, Azir should actually be able to win the lane. It's kind of hard right now because as far as I remember, like he already has a top turret down. They're 1v1 in the top lane, so he has a longer lane that he's playing on. But 1v1, if they're actually able to get some ward coverage, which SK is like not doing that much, he should be able to push him in and create pressure for his team.
I really want to see how Wicked actually performs on this Rumble. You know, we're seeing a champion that you don't traditionally associate with Wicked as a player. Rumble's quite this oddball. It's got this bruiser element to it, but it's also got this spell casting. The importance of your equalizer cannot be understated, especially as we start roaming towards the follow-up dragons that are potentially going to come into play. On the other side, you've got Freddy, who has demonstrated a clear mastery over the top lane. He's always rolled with the meta. He's always adapted to however the LCS is meant to play. And we heard from him a week or 2 weeks ago saying this is the first split with expectation on his shoulders. He's got a champion like Azir who can hard carry. He's a player who's got the ability. And I actually think if you're looking at that top lane matchup, Freddy, in theory, has got the tools to win it and help SK get even further ahead.
He was also mentioning in the interview, yeah, I don't let the pressure that much get to me, and he rather speaks by his actions on the Rift. Turning to another lane, we have the 2 versus 2. We have Forgiven up against Reckless, and it is Jana Lucian up against Leona Graves in that one. Forgiven said in the interview, I always keep farming until I need to be in a team fight. Reckless kind of does the same, so we're just going to see this bottom lane at infinitum.
Maybe, but so far, like as we've seen, like SK has a different focus than Elements does. He's saying that he wants to farm a lot and he wants to wait until he's farmed enough to get into mid-game teamfights. But honestly, that's not what SK is about. SK is about pushing the advantage and actually trying to get the global lead. We have explained that in the lane swap. Like that's the main goal. And afterwards, even that, like he's gonna be the one that is gonna get those turrets on and basically advance the game for his team.
I want to see how Reckless plays the next few minutes because the lane swap actually went in favor of Forgiven. DeFisher was touching on it during the cast, saying that Forgiven had a good back timing. He farmed up an extra wave. He was able to get a pickaxe first back, whereas Reckless was forced to get boots. Forgiven got a BF sword first back, and it was Reckless that got a pickaxe and boots on his first back. The only reason I highlight that, despite the fact you can see on the port screen the items are the same now, it hasn't been that way for a few minutes. And with Reckless actually being fairly outspoken about his respect for Forgiven and you know, him saying quite bluntly, Forgiven was better than me last year, I wonder what pressure this puts on a player like Reckless who has problems at times. You know, he called out his team earlier in the week. You can't forget about that. How is he going to handle it? And I can't wait to see when we eventually get back in game.
Yeah, let's then also turn to the supports as it is so integral to that duo lane. And we've been talking a lot about, you touched on Vander today as being a mechanically super strong support. We don't actually talk that much about Nif as if we all named as all those players, and Enrated might have the edge here. Yeah,
I definitely think that Enrated is a superior support to Nif, but that's because N-rated brings more to the team than Nif does. From what I've heard, and that's the discussions that Tabs basically initiated when he made the Ask of Ed posts, I remember that Nif seems to be someone that is somewhat silent. N-rated, as far as I'm concerned, he's someone that brings shot-calling to the team, knowledge to the team, and actually orchestrates a lot of movements, which is why I would put N-rated above Nif. On lane, Forgiven is someone that demands his support to be mechanically solid, and you saw the development in Unlimited in the spring split. We see the same case here. N-rated is someone, last split he had a weaker lane AD carry in Candy Panda, but now he has a strong AD carry on lane, and he has to go with the flow. And Forgiven is demanding that out of him, and he has talked about too.
I actually find that quite interesting because I think you're 100% right. I do feel that N-rated is a more cerebral player than Nif, but I actually think when it comes to game mechanics and actual in-game play, you look at N-rated's Annie-game, it left a lot to be desired. N-rated has played great on the supporty champions. You know, his Lulu in particular, it shines, even though it's off meta at the moment. But last year, he was playing support Galio. He was playing these oddball picks. I feel the value of that cerebral approach has to be more important because if you gave Forgiven a more mechanically adept support who could play the Leonas, could play the Threshers a bit more, you know, well, the question you have to ask is how much better does Forgiven get in lane? You know, like, it's give and take. But I do agree, Nif does seem to be the silent support on the side lanes. He's got so many massive carries along the rest of the team. You seldom actually look at that lane when you look at Elements.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see what N-rated can do on that Jenna. I actually think it could be something with the disengage that he could do because he reads the game so well.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I think supporty, disengage, safety champions suit him better when he has to read a situation and say, should I do something or shouldn't I? As opposed to a Leona, a Annie, a Thresh, something that's a bit more involved, so to speak, you know, landing skill shot after skill shot while simultaneously picking your moments. So I do think Janna suits his playstyle more.
All right, we've almost gone through all the lanes, but we've got one more, Fox versus Froggen. And in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about SK Gaming and how Fox didn't need to shine yet. He was doing his job. He had some good games on Kassadin flanking as well. In this one, this might be one of those where he has to step over. He could shine as Ari in this one. Froggen just had a successful gank from Rengar from Shook in that one. Do you think that the Ari presence will be very important here in this one? Will Fox have to step up?
I don't think so. Due to how SK is operating through the early game, they don't care as much about the mid lane, to be honest. They are fine with mid lane just farming up and getting the items that he needs to actually compete in the team fights. SK is fully focused on the side lanes more so than none. Therefore, I don't think he has to shine because Forgiven, Freddy, Svenskern are bringing so much presence to the team. that he just needs to be existing and not be a negative force in the team.
Yeah, I actually agree with that theory. You know, Fox, he's playing confidently. Yes, he gave up first blood, but that was after he's tried to set up a gank. He tried to jump onto Froggen. It's one of these things that you seldom don't talk about. You're looking at Froggen, one of the all-time gods of the European mid lane, who's been around almost as long as the game has existed on a professional level. There's no more old guard around. Pekka is, you know, playing Challenger at the moment. He's not in the LCS. You've got Alex Sitch, hasn't been around for a little while. All of the old big names are falling by the wayside. And here you've got this young upstart Fox who's got the audacity to spirit rush into Froggen. Unfortunately, it didn't work out this time. But I think, you know, there's a lot to be said about that mindset in a game like this where everybody is watching.
Yeah, how dare he, Fox?
Yeah.
Got it coming. Looking at how the game is progressing right now, and as we see it progressing into the mid-game, you said you think you can give it to SK for the edge and the fact that they have that disengage. So what is Elements' next step?
I mean, Elements' next step is, first of all, they got to kill it right now, so they probably are able to use their mid priority because they clear the wave, they probably get a push onto the turret. They should get control of one side, wait for the cooldowns to be back up, and basically compete for the Drake that is coming up.
SK doesn't want to give it up. And the problem for SK, or the risk that SK put themselves in, if they do set up for a dragon and Elements decides to fight, the power of Lissandra and Rumble in that sort of choke point in that zone is terrifying. So if Froggen can get in with a good glacial path and you put an equalizer down, yes, Azir is very powerful and you can put a wall up, but that's not going to stop the damage from Rumble, the damage from Lissandra. So there's a very, very scary moment leading up.
Yep, there is. I'm actually almost out of things to say for this matchup. Is there anything else we can look at in this one? The nerfs coming in with a long pause like this, amazing. You're all set up. You're ready to go. The lane swap is over. You're in your direct lane opponent. Bam, pause. And there's no one who can step in. You can't talk. How will that influence the players?
It depends on the player. Like, some people are more adept so than not, where they are actually able to translate what they did earlier to the next steps and actually like keep the focus up. But it completely depends on the player. But I think the veterans that are both teams, like, that exist on both teams, are able to actually keep that up. So I'm not worried for them.
Yeah, I want to see how well these teams do bounce back, because again, there's this high pressure scenario. You've got this moment where everybody's looking, they've all fired up. I think the big pressure is going to be on Reckless, and I would dare say on the likes of, you know, Shook, if you're looking at the side of Elements, and Rated on the other hand. How is he going to handle Forgiven? I actually want to ask what it's like playing with Forgiven in the team, because this is a guy that, you know, you touched on the fact he demands a lot. This is a guy who's actually fairly emotional in his play because he holds everybody to the standard that he plays.
Yeah, that's exactly what he does. Like, I remember the spring split when we played and we had a couple of issues coming in where we lost, I think, 4 out of our first 10 games, or maybe even more. 4 out of our first 14, I think, even. He was sad. He was not happy with the way we were playing. He demanded that everyone, like literally everyone, not just his lane, but everyone plays more solo queue and plays up to his standard, where he wants to be. He sees his team, and he sees a team where that has to be at the top of the standings to represent what he thinks he can do as a player. And to be frank, he's accomplishing that. He accomplished that with us to a certain extent. With a close series versus Alliance, if I remember correctly, we probably should have won. But it's like, I don't want to come with PJ Salt or anything like that. But he's someone that is a driving force behind his own team, and that's why, as an AD carry, he's one of the few AD carries that I consider MVP worthy, because he has this competitive drive coming in.
What pressure does that put on you? I mean, you're sitting, you've got this guy, yeah, he's demanding XYZ. Is he really that flawless that you're like, actually, I have to just sit and take this?
I mean, everyone has some kind of flaws, but it's not even just like, if you have flaws, obviously you gotta work on them. But the thing is that what he does is just like, he sees a mistake in his own play, he revisits that mistake in his own play, and in the next game, he's not gonna do it anymore. And that's the standard he holds his team to. It doesn't even matter if he basically does bad one game. He's going to bounce back 100% because he has the work ethic coming in.
Talking about Forgiven as MVP, Elements GG's Twitter account actually tweeted before this one, are you going to be the MVP at Chuklol? by far. That was a funny one from them coming in, putting up Shook as the MVP. Guys, you probably felt it coming. We need to take a brief break as we resolve this issue some players are experiencing involving auto attacks on stage. But we'll be back in a few moments for the continuation of Elements versus SK Gaming. Don't touch that browser.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Now, we have had a few issues relating to the auto attacks that have been going on in this game. So, Deficio, this has been a very long pause. It's allowed the teams to kind of cool off and reset the mindset. Some of the momentum's been arrested. We'll see if we're able to ascertain the cause of the issue, keep it going. However, assuming the game continues, how does this affect the mindset of both these teams? Because it has been talked about a little bit on the desk, but I want to know your take on it.
Well, I think Amazing said everything about it, to be honest. It depends on the player. I mean, it's the same for everyone. You're not allowed to talk. You just have to sit there and kind of focus. I think all the players will kind of recap what happened in the game already and what's the next move, because everyone obviously can see the pause screen, so they know where they are on the map. They know, again, do we have a dragon coming up soon? The players know everything. They have all the information ready. We only played 12 minutes. So honestly, as a player, you just sit back and you try and stay focused. And you make sure you don't get affected by this pause and suddenly get annoyed. Like, you have to just keep it really cool. As soon as we start again, a few jokes flying around maybe on TeamSpeak or whatever they're using, and suddenly you are right back into the game.
It definitely gives you a lot of time to think, and you got to not out-mind game yourself. In either team situation, you saw a little bit of momentum being built by Elements with, of course, their quick gank in the middle. And yeah, 12 minutes in, it's not really a lot has happened, but all the same, it's sort of like, you think a lot about your next move, and you try not to overthink yourself and what you're going to do, because if you just think, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then the game comes undone and all of a sudden you just fall face forward. I mean, that's a very real possibility. So the game, it looks like we're going to unpause this one, see if the issue has resolved itself, making it going forward here. I feel like still, it's been such a long time that you just got to like shake everything else away. 12.5 minutes in, we're back to this game. Thanks for waiting, guys. The game will continue for the time being.
Yeah, and just quickly to talk about the game so far, we had a lane swap from SK Gaming where they managed to take the top tower and then swap back down to the bottom lane, take another tower. The one you see on the screen, that is an Azir turret being killed by Elements, so they are behind 2 towers to 0, but First Blood was picked up in the mid lane by Froggen, Wicked, and Shook just before the pause happened.
Indeed, it was an SK continuing their control of the blue buff, both blue buffs really. They grab another one in Elements territory as Reckless joins Froggen in the mid lane. Forgiven, pops a culling, and there we go. There's another false tower adding to the score.
Yeah, we gotta
not be fooled by that.
Keep looking at the minimap, but still, so the first gank from Shook, after he actually hit the level 6 point, tried the bottom lane, didn't work for him, and then went into mid lane. After Spirit Rush had already been used, so a fairly easy game set up by Elements, and they can do it again if they want to and keep applying pressure on this mid lane. This bottom lane turret is still alive, could be the focus point, but we see SK is already ready, and Raid is here, and Svensson is nearby in case Shook shows himself in this bottom lane.
Yeah, Reckless still plugging away at a couple of those minions, but we took a look at the gold during the pause, and Forgiven definitely on the up and up as per expected.
Yeah.
Of the GPM leader of the league. Here's Shook waiting in a brush, though. Gonna jump on N-Rated the Bola and the Monsoon, but it won't be enough to save his life. Reckless is going to come up with that kill. Shook jumping in and out of the brushes as he goes.
Forgiven is fine. Yeah, Ari's down the bottom lane.
Fox, he's going to check right. Whoa, they ran right past each other, and Fox, can he take down Nif? He is going to get that kill.
Wicked actually teleported. Wicked is down his bottom lane here, but he's not really able to do anything.
Yeah, the charm. A lot of damage. Forgiven, living a bit dangerously, but he backs away when he runs out of mana, and that just turn up the heat as soon as we get back in. Wow.
Right back into this game. 2 junglers here, both around the bottom lane, and we saw actually some very nice CC chaining by Elements onto N-Rated, so he couldn't flash away in time, but then obviously the roam coming and responding 1-for-1, and again, teleports down from Wicked, even had to flash. So that's a big advantage for SK, especially because the Dragon is 130, meaning Freddy can go back, push out the top lane, force Wicked to stay there, and he won't be able to join in, and it could be the second Dragon then for SK.
They have had phenomenal Dragon control so far. However, Elements, will they be keen to give this one up yet again? Froggen still trading out farm. He's actually gotten
Look
quite
at
a lot
Shook,
better
though,
farm
mid
than
lane
Foxy.
again.
Yeah. Got to be careful. He's actually staying a little bit safe, but not safe enough. Here comes Froggen with the Frozen Tomb. Shook intercepts the towers, and just like clockwork, 1, 2, 3, they grab themselves another Fox.
So hard to play against that combo from Element. You see the flash bowler strike from Shook, so there's no chance to escape it, and then Froggen obviously follows up. Pushed him down to 2 kills now in this mid lane. 1 for Froggen, 1 for Shook. And Elements doing exactly what they did yesterday against MYM. Camp the mid lane, get Froggen ahead on this Lissandra. Because he's farming like an absolute beast.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to put Forgiven to shame, although Forgiven is still staying ahead this one. Once again, 22 seconds on this Dragon. Shook and Nif in position at the Scuttle Crab. Meanwhile, Freddy up in the top lane, plugging away, but he's got teleport available should SK Gaming require this. The rest of Elements, all of the Elements are actually right here. Here comes Froggen, although he's got no ouch. Svenskeren, he's gonna jump on him, he's down. They're looking for more as Freddy teleported in. Wicked comes up with the pick on Svenskeren as Froggen is dropped as well. Forgiven does not quite have enough damage to polish off Shook, but he's so low, it would be way too dangerous to try and get involved in this. Monsoon spent by Unrated for a little bit of sustain there. And now Forgiven starts off the Dragon. Yep.
No smite for SK Gaming here.
Dangerous.
Shook is back in base. They will secure this Dragon here. Elements trying to respond by taking the mid turret.
Yep, they do take Dragon number 2. Can Elements poke this one down? It's still pretty dangerous as Freddy shifting sands his way forward. And Rated and Forgiven there to clear the wave out. And Elements get nothing.
Yeah, and Elements actually had a pretty good setup for this Dragon here. Wicked had pushed the top wave, and then he just walked all the way down, so didn't get punished for his lack of teleport. But then with Froggen getting charmed up, and obviously the fight started, they trade 1 for 1, and because SK came out ahead, they could take the second Dragon, still defend the mid turret as well.
So SK Gaming keeps Elements away from the turrets yet again. Forgiven padding his CS with a couple of wolves. Back up there as Froggen moves down to the bottom side. No turret for him here, but he will grab a little bit more of those CS numbers. And meanwhile, SK sending Fox, Forgiven and Rated, to try and push down this middle turret, but it's dangerous.
It is, but the Elements have Wicked in here defending.
Oh,
not enough wave clear though. If Froggen is in the mid lane, then there's no wave clear from Elements at all, and that's why SK can push it down. Froggen is moving up here. I do actually like his item build as well, going for the tanky style, which he likes to do, Abyssal Scepter, and then Hourglass the next item, just with a bit of cooldown reduction from the Codex. But once you get that Hourglass, he can really start diving the back line of SK, but he needs to stay in the mid lane if they want to wave clear, otherwise SK can push it back again. Now though, contesting blue buffs is a thing Elements always like to do. Fight also in these small choke points in the jungle. When you have a Rumble and a Lissandra, you can cover the entire area and just AoE down SK, and that's why they have to back away and respect Elements and give up this blue buff area.
Well, they have given up quite a lot of blue buffs so far on the side of Elements. SK Gaming had already cleaned that one out. Looks like he's set to come up in just a moment as they try to push down the tower. Blue buff spawns up, and they'll be going for it. Here you go. There's your fan vote. Elements still coming out ahead in this one. So about close to 60% of you guys gonna say that they'll hand SK their first loss. Let's see how that one does work out. Almost 20 minutes into this game, Elements have grabbed 2 towers, just the Azir turrets.
Got the
Gotta
bottom
check
lane
myself
turret
here.
before, yeah. Got the top.
Oh, they did get the bottom lane, that's right.
Yes.
Oh, now I got myself juked all over.
I mean, it's a trick with these
Yeah, I know.
stupid Azir turrets everywhere.
Every time. Oh, Reckless. He just keeps taking so much poke in this situation. The culling is out, too. He's going to force Froggen to tank a little bit of it. They don't have the wave, though.
Yeah, and again, Froggen is here to wave clear, but both him and Graves are fairly short-ranged, meaning SK can always poke them when they try to clear the waves and keep them in this mid lane. Pink ward has been placed now around the Raptor camp from Elements, meaning Shook can activate his ulti knowing he's not spotted and go for the engage once it is ready and look for that fight. Froggen is going in!
Yeah, they've caught Freddy. They throw it on the equalizer. Nif, he gets pushed back. Freddy just barely goes down. Here comes Svenskeren, but there is no team to follow up. Elements with a quick 2 for none. They defended the tower, but it's not like it will be much to knock it over.
And a bit of a misplayed fight here by SK. Freddy's staying a bit too far forward. He needs Ready next to him to instantly disengage. And then Svenskeren as well, jumping in after he had already died. Not the right call, but still getting the tower, but 2 kills more from Elements. And we're staying dead even in gold.
Now let's take a look at how that one happened again. You mentioned the pink ward, ensuring you wouldn't be spotted, but here he goes.
Yeah, so again, you need your Janet to be next to Azir to try and save him from this all-in, but this is basically just actually all the AoE damage, so nothing Enrated really could do actually keep him alive this time around. And then obviously Svenskeren jumping in. A bit of a suicide mission and ends up dying for it. But actually, take it back with Enrated. His position was okay. It was just all the AoE damage from Elements taking out Freddy.
Yeah, he was already starting to melt by the time the Monsoon was used.
Yeah, exactly.
It really just wasn't much they could do about that. Reckless picked it up. So Elements coming ahead in the kill score quite well this game. However, SK still pushing objectives.
Again, it is the SK style. You don't really care about the kills. You care about getting towers down, getting global gold for everyone, so you get that item advantage. You see again, they're still slightly ahead because they have 3 toads to 1 on the side of SK. And I have to give them some credit. They're actually buying a lot of wards in this game compared to what we normally see from them. There's a lot of defensive pink wards on the map already for them, so they're realizing we gotta get these wards, we gotta try and spot Shook, otherwise it's too easy for him to just engage on us every single time.
Sensing a tougher opponent, they do adapt their style. Now Reckless and Nif pushing up this top side, should be able to polish off this turret now that Freddy's been zoned out of the picture. And there we go, Elements will grab another outer to even the score. It is 2-2-3. Do not let the Azir turrets fool you again.
No, and Elements now, because they've been able to win a few fights and get some picks, it actually bought time for them to really start pushing the side lane, getting that outer turret down, slowing SK down a bit as well. Dragon is going to be the next point. Because you have 2 dragons already this early to 0, meaning Dragon Stone becomes more and more important for you if you are SK Gaming, because you're chasing towards that 5th dragon now. So you don't want to allow Elements, first of all, to get the 6% AP and AD. At the same time, you don't want them to slow you down either and stop you from reaching the 5 dragons, very early on. So they're gonna move in here, place a few of those wards already from SK. Especially the pink wards are gonna be important. Make them face check your Ahri.
They had to fight for the last one, and SK had been typically pretty good, especially in the first couple weeks, at just taking uncontested dragons, just out-positioning their opponents. But that time, they had to pay for it, and they did buy it at the price of some champions. Elements was happy to make some trades, but they did give up the dragon.
Yeah, and Wicked not going for Haunting Guys in this game. Just full AP focus with that early death cap. He's very squishy if he does get locked down by the likes of Svenskeren. But remember, SK, they want Elements to engage and then disengage with their Zia wall, with of course the Monsoon from a Janna, and then you re-engage after once all these important ultis from a Rumble, from a Lissandra, from a Rengar is gone, and you will be strong. But here's the engage!
Oh, they find the Leona ultimate, and Reckless comes up with a quick double. That should be a dragon for Elements, and they have done what few teams have been able to do against this SK squad.
Yeah.
Find the fight, secure the dragon. Nicely done. Let's go back to base.
Playing around the wards correctly here by Elements. You go and you place them, you stay there, you defend them, you wait for SK to walk in and face check you, and then you get the perfect engage. No chance for SK to do anything. Notice here again, there's a pink ward in the small bush, so you can't see Elements. Nice setup, no chance of a disengage. That's how you get the kills. And SK now realize if Elements has the ward control around Baron or Dragon in the future, then you can't walk down and try and fight them. You're gonna have to give it up or be very, very careful.
Well, Forgiven may be our GPM king thanks to his CS numbers, but Reckless is the one that's stacking kills onto his graves. We know in the mid game how quick that can get out of hand.
Yeah,
SK pushes some minion waves back. Yeah, this is still a tense moment for SK. They've faced a tough challenge in this Element squad.
for sure, and Elements have no reason to stop playing aggressive here. Keep playing around these wards where you are the better team and use your heavy engage comp. I mean, this comp is basically built around playing against SK, because you know you're going to get these chances here where SK has no vision on the map to see you, and you can just start these perfect fights. So really, really smart draft from Elements, as long as they can keep getting the right engages. Shook's going in, and once again, not finding a target though, just checking if anyone is out of position. Whoa, Enrated.
That was a quick solar flare and quick jump in for Shook, looking for Enrated, but Forgiven is there as well. Coles him back, and Shook has to walk away, licking his wounds, but they're still...
That's too important. Ulti's gone now here.
It is. Here comes
going in.
Garen. They're going to try to make the fight happen. Sven is going to bail out immediately, but Freddy is around the side. Fox, very low. Emperor's Divide, push them all back, but they've not got the damage to finish off. Yes,
Double
they
kill.
do. Wait just a minute. Double kill going over to Freddy. 1-2-2. And they are still going as Froggen will finally evaporate him, but it's a 4-for-1 in favor of SK Gaming.
Yeah, and this was fighting in the jungle where the Rumble and Lissandra are so strong, but because we had no ulti from Shook and no ulti from Nif, SK felt they could go for the fight. Freddy came in untouched, got a double kill for himself. Baron being started here. Can Reckless be a hero?
He's certainly going to try for the Baron. Already at half health, he throws down the smoke screen. Not quite enough. Forgiven.
One static chip frog is going to do a lot
here. They are
here.
all so low, but he can't connect the damage. Here goes Forgiven in. Reckless, he's zoned out of that one. And SK Gaming take themselves a 26.5-minute Baron.
Yeah, so everything actually starts here by Elements going too aggressive on N-Red. Not sure what Shook is trying to do here. The rest of his team is not following. He takes a lot of damage for it. He's now basically useless. A Rengar with no ult, he won't do anything. And SK, they see the chance to go in. First, Ari pops in, then Jarvan. And notice how Sven's gone. He pops his ulti and he flashes away. He knows he's going to die otherwise. And now Freddy, down the bottom of your screen, left, untouched, just spamming away with these soldiers here. And then he's doing so much damage.
Yeah, finds himself quite a lot in that one. He does go down at the end of that fight, but SK Gaming really with the reinitiation and taking advantage of the overcommitment of Elements.
Yeah.
Grab themselves a Baron, 4 members for 1, really nicely played out. And they are back up in quite a comfortable lead.
Now you have the Baron now, you're pushing down. Decent poke coming out of SK. Not really a siege comp they're running, but you have a lot of range on your champions here. With, of course, Lucian, Ari, and Azir together to get a bit of damage on this tower. But you need to ward your flanks if you want to push up here with this Baron buff, because otherwise, Elements can still get the right engage and beat you in a fight.
Svenskeren acting the human ward as he clears out the wolves right there, but they are potentially worried about Shook. Thrill of the Hunt is re-enabled now, so let's see if he wants to go in.
Yeah, I think Svenskeren actually went out and smited the wolf to get that small little vision ghost flying around to see if anyone's coming from that side. But Shook is standing down this towards the Raptor camp. There's no wards on him, so he can go in if he wants to.
Yeah, he's
there
going
we go.
to jump. He jumps right onto Fox, and they're gonna push him back right away. Collateral damage, not enough to finish off Fox. Tower goes down. Yet another one picked up by SK Gaming. They've got a few more minions in the tank to push this one in.
And another fight started by Elements where they're not really on the same page. There was no engage coming from Froggen, trying to back up his teammate Shook here, so he just went in on his own, got popped instantly.
And they got an inhibitor off of this one.
And he didn't even ulti. He just like ran in, no stealth for him, and just an easy target for SK.
Definitely not on the same level as he was able to play to yesterday. SK, of course, are a much tougher customer to deal with in this situation, but they have gotten themselves a decent lead off of these Elements misplays. SK Gaming now can nicely back away from that one. Didn't give anything up. Dragon's up in a minute. It's looking good for them. What can Elements do here, though?
Well, for now, stick to the same tactic. You are still very strong 30 minutes in. Your Rumble, again though, Wicked here, not running with that magic penetration, which we typically see that gives you such a good spike in the mid game. He's going for full AP on this Rumble, but SK really been playing these last 2 fights so well. I mean, the way they realize, okay, 2 ultis are gone from Elements in the jungle, we can go for them. How Svenskeren engages them, flashes away, and obviously Freddy with the perfect positioning coming in from the bottom side. And then the next one here, just sitting ready. You saw Enrated instantly just pop one soon as Shook jumped in. No stealth though, and no claw coming, so they could just pop him. Get a tower and inhibitor as well. So for now, SK Gaming looking strong. They're giving up the dragon area again though, allowing Elements to set up a few ping wards and now look for the right engage.
Yeah, Shook's gonna try to jump in onto Freddy, but he shifts his way out of danger, so the Rengar ultimate is down for the moment. Elements look to position right back over by the dragon, but SK are still here and ready.
And a very key item now completed for Forgiven, the Quicksilver Sash. So he can cleanse if he gets engaged on. No ulti from Shook, remember?
Svenskeren going in. Fox, they've caught Nif out. Freddy dealing with Froggen. Svenskeren is just barely able to make it away. Freddy goes down, Froggen goes down. It's a 1 for 2. SK Gaming in position, and they start the Dragon.
And again, every single time Sugar's no ulti, SK, they want to fight. They engage onto elements here. We have QSS for Forgiven. Mikhail's being picked up by Enrated. Also making sure Freddy could stay alive as long as possible. Did end up dying in the end. Let's just see it again here. Nif is going to be the target. There's no ulti for Shug. So SK, they want to fight and engage onto elements. As he goes into Nif, followed by the Charm, he will go down. And notice here, Mikhail straight onto Freddy, making sure he can just deal out some damage before he goes down and clean up, or in the end, not really a clean up, just get an extra kill for Forgiven. 2 for 1, and a Dragon for SK.
Very importantly, and I've really been impressed at Svenskaren's ability to just stay alive while tanking up 4 out of 5 members of elements. That's not the first time he's done it either.
No, he's really doing a good job in terms of how he engage and instantly move away, knowing there's so much burst between Alessandro and Graves, so he can't stay in there, instead backing out and getting another rotation of his EQ combo later in the fights. And obviously also staying alive with that locket. It's fairly important you keep those 20 or the 20 MR for your team against double AP.
Up in the top lane, Elements looking to shove in. Taking their time about it, however. Forgiven and Freddy are around, clearing out the red buff. And Rated has joined that little bit of a jungle roam. Elements actually backing away from this one, so they're not super confident in their ability to fast push down objectives. And really, it does seem that the key in SK's victories in these fights and skirmishes has been, is Shook's ultimate down? Okay, go.
Yeah. Again, disengaged the first time when Shook popped his ulti and tried to go in. We saw Freddy beforehand just dash into his own turret. And suddenly the ulti was wasted by Shook, and then SK sees the opening. But again, it's always been the problem for Rengar is you need to create the pick, you need to start the fight. Once your ulti is gone, you don't really add anything compared to a Jarvan in these team fights, and that's why SK can keep looking for the fights. And they have great positioning again around Elements when they actually start them. There's always someone coming from the side here where Elements isn't expected, and suddenly they can't get off this massive AoE combo because SK is split up.
Yeah, they're playing it out very smartly to not take the engages on Elements. Turf now, Nif is going to be caught by the Charm. Coling is out, they've thrown him down. Fox picks up the kill, and they're going in for round 2. Svenskeren does the jump in, jump out once again, and Wicked having to burn his flash. Forgiven, actually not taking that much damage and zoning away Froggen. Shook is already backed out of the fight. So they grab a tower, they grab a kill. Baron's up in 8 seconds.
Yeah, Nif, 20 seconds still here. Froggen also forced to go back. There's going to be another Baron for SK Gaming. They're just going to start it instantly here. Teleport from Wicked.
Yeah,
Elements, they want to fight
this. But the Baron is falling so
there's
quickly
no
right now. He's going to have to just try for the Smite Steal. No, he's discouraged from it. They're going to get the trinkets. Shook chased away, but maybe he can't get away. As soon as they pick the Baron, they turn it around. Shook is caught up. Nowhere to go. Mid-leap. Forgiven with another kill.
And SK Gaming are looking so strong in these fights here. They punish every single mistake Elements has made in this game. And now, get another inhibitor. Second time mid goes down. And remember again, like the comp from SK, especially with this Azir, it's just gonna get stronger and stronger. Azir is so good late game, especially if you can't kill him instantly. He just gets to stand there with his soldiers. And with Enrated protecting him, it's not looking good for Elements right now.
They've got a wave on the bot side building. Everything's starting to go their way. Froggen eats a Charm. The wave clear is ridiculous at this point for SK Gaming. They've got the Baron buff. This tower, I can't even finish the sentence at this point. They're just going on. There's no reason not to. Super minions are going to start streaming into the middle. They've got a wave pushing in their favor slowly in the top side. Elements in full damage control mode. But how fast can they stop this push?
Well, SK is waiting for the next wave and also waiting for the top lane here where a lot of minions has been built up. Pushing actually just going to double check if it goes in favor of them or Alliance. Yeah, heavily in favor of SK, so they can just stay here, wait for those minions as well, and engage from Nif.
Freddy's caught. They're going to send Nif in onto him, but they weren't quite on the same page as Froggen. Gets a frozen tomb out. Reckless picks up Svenskeren, a pair of Zanya's hourglasses, but I think it's Froggen going down. Forgiven with another, Forgiven with a double. They're going in for more, and Elements cannot even defend their own base. Monsoon up. Let's go in, recharge the batteries, take another inhibitor. Elements Can they even stay alive?
And Shook wasn't even in that fight. He still has ulti ready here. Again, Elements not on the same page when they're engaging onto SK, and that's why SK can take the fight.
He's gone invisible, but he's taking his time about it now. The Nexus turret's being fired down. Still have this Baron buff on. Elements, can they stop this? It doesn't look like it right now. SK Gaming, 1 Nexus turret, 2 Nexus turrets. Now they're on the Nexus itself.
The best
down
team in
it
Europe.
goes. The best team in Europe stays undefeated. 6-0 for SK Gaming.
What a performance from the lane swap. Then into the mid game here. A little, like 5 minutes basically, where Elements had some good fights, managed to set up some good wards around it, get a few picks. But then, from every single missed ulti, when it comes from Nif or Shook, when they failed to engage, SK could just go back in, re-engage onto them, and win the team fights. What a performance.
Yeah.
This team.
There's nothing you can say about that other than that. They came up massive. It looked for a moment there were some Elements advantages. There were those elements of victory, and they just didn't stack it up together. They weren't able to combo up. SK Gaming got a couple picks, got in a roll, took advantage of every misstep by Shook, every misstep by the rest of Elements. And there he is on your screen, Forgiven, once again, unkilled. So he has that 1 death to his name, but he adds 5 more kills and 5 more assists to that KDA. Fantastic score, fantastic team play all around. You can have no complaints if you're this team.
No, really, I quite like the comp Elements was running against SK because you know you can set up these picks and it looked good for them for a moment, but then suddenly it was like getting a little bit too overhyped maybe. Shook jumping in onto Enrated, really up around the red buff, sorry, of SK Gaming. That was the turning point really where SK got in, got the right team fight and took a Baron from it. That one moment where Shook went too aggressive, SK got a fight they wanted to take, got the Baron, got so far ahead as well, they could just keep forcing these fights. And honestly, from the lane swap, how Elements again failed to punish them, despite them actually knowing what SK is doing is the same every single game. And then just to these late game fights, SK really showed how good they are. Because the way the player fights again, every single player here, the individual performance in the fights, from Svensson going in, locking down a few targets and flashing away every time, like it's so important when you're against this much AoE and engage. One guy out of position, then he gets popped instantly, he's dead, and you lose the fight. But everyone just played it so well.
Yeah, it was a really tough thing to stand on, dealing with this Elements squad. And of course, as the game drawn on later, we're starting to think about, oh, maybe Elements can roll it back in, rein it in. They were able to grab a Dragon for themselves, something that not that many teams have been able to do against this squad. But SK, they just seemed unstoppable when they take advantage of those misplays. Not only that, you mentioned it yourself, they bought a bunch of pink wards, they started to patch those few holes they have in their strategy. If they're realizing this now, on week number 3 in the spring split, how scary are they going to be just down the line? This team has not been stopped, they've not given up a loss. Forgiven has given up 1 death. I really can't find much bad to say about them at all.
No, I mean, there isn't really anything to say about SK still. Yes, they have a few problems, but they're working on them clearly. We saw here once they really face a top-tier team, they throw away that extra weight they normally carry where they don't buy any wards, actually invested into a few pink wards. And honestly, if you just look at SK as a team and you compare them to last year, they kept the 3 best players they had on the team. They kept them, made sure that synergy was there, and then got 2 upgrades, AD carry and mid lane position. And that's why, again, they're looking so good. You have the same strategic mind. You have the same, practice environment. You have the same mindset in looking into the game. And then you just have even better players who can actually carry a game. It's just such a scary combination.
Yeah, it was just absolutely incredible. Now, to talk about that one, Quickshot standing by with a member of Elements. So let's head on to stage for a look into that game.
Thank you very much for breaking the game, guys. Unfortunately, not a victory today. Froggen 4-2 on the split. You guys started off really well. You bounced back from SK's lane swap. Where did it go wrong for you and why?
When we went into the top jungle around the red buff, where we went way too deep, they basically went 4-for-1, and then they got Nash off of that, and they could keep the control of the game.
So the question, why did you go in deep? What was the call? What was happening on the team communication?
I think it was just miscommunication. Like yesterday, we went in no matter what, basically, and I think that's kind of the mentality we had this game too, and it just backfired because we missed the Leona ultimate, and then we still went in, and then they could just clean us up.
So you guys definitely were in with a shot. Yesterday you performed flawlessly against MYM. You had fantastic engages. The Rengar-Lissandra combo seems to be working for you guys. What is happening in the Elements camp that you're unable to find that sort of perfect engage, those perfect decisions as frequently as, say, SK Gaming?
I mean, we just messed up some engages, and then they got Nasha, and they could keep taking advantages, and they have Janna and Azir for disengage, so it made the game really hard for us. Before that, I actually think we found the engages really well, so I don't think we have too much to worry about there.
I've got a question for you, and I'd like a fairly honest answer. Myself and Amazing were discussing who we felt was the stronger team, and I think it's fair to say SK is performing more consistently. I believe Elements may have a higher skill cap. Considering Fnatic just lost to Unicorns of Love yesterday, if it were a 3-horse race, who is the strongest team in Europe? Yourself, SK, or Fnatic, and why?
Right now it's SK because they're winning all the games, so there's not really a lot to discuss there. I mean, for the rest, they're like us and Fnatic are a bit behind SK, but right now it's definitely SK.
Froggen, just final thoughts here. You seem quite down, quite beaten. You know, we've chatted for a while. What is going to happen for yourself and the team this weekend and next week to work forward and keep going up?
I mean, we have just improved so far, and we're just going to keep going at it. So hopefully we'll just start winning against SK at the end of the split, and we'll come back.
Well, 4-2, still sitting at the top of the table. You do have another shot at SK. Unfortunate on the game, but thank you for the time. For now, we're going to throw it back over to Shox and Amazing to wrap up the day.
Thank you very much, guys. We heard from Froggen, but now it's time to hear from Forgiven. 6-0 for SK Gaming on the board. Another victory for you guys. Congratulations, first off.
Thank you.
I want to summarize the game a little bit. Froggen already gave us a look in. Let's take it back to the early game, because you guys got to play your game exactly the way you wanted.
Actually, we wanted to follow the lane swap of Elements because we knew that they were going to lane swap. They did what every other team do, like place 5 wards in the enemy jungle, so they prevented. But like we just took like an advantage by pushing the lane when the top laner couldn't actually follow under the tower, because if he teleported, he was dead. And like we took the golems and we took anything we could, and then we lane swapped back. And not only that, but also Freddy got an advantage on bot lane. He didn't die, and when he returned top, like he was pretty actually zoning Wicked really hard.
Amazing. What did you make of the rest of the game up to that crucial moment that we're going to talk about in a bit? Because Elements was racking up all the kills.
Yeah, exactly. Elements, they seem to kind of find the, as Froggen already said, they seem to find the engage that were necessary for the comp to exceed. And they were able to get in control of the Drake side. They had a beautiful double kill, I think, with Rumble ult coming in, and basically like zoning SK off of the Drake and get another advantage through that. They equalized the gold lead that that SK was breaking up throughout the early game due to the lane swap and how it went. But they not only equalized the gold lead, but they seem to gain control of the game. And now the game breaking point is coming up. So.
Yeah, what happened after is history. Let's actually walk through it with Forgiven. Let's get that replay up on the screen. You guys have an Azir in your team, and Elements decide to overstep their boundaries. Forgiven, run us through it. Let's roll the clip.
Yeah, they tried to engage on Reddit. He missed the solar flare. Then we see that Sook can't actually go away from there, and nobody could actually go there and keep me up from doing damage. I land all my ultimate, and then we'll call an engage because Fox had also the flank, and he could bait or extend the trade. And then we just collapse on them, and it's up to like who can play better mechanically the team fight there. Like I was zoned for like 3 seconds because I couldn't follow up inside, because if I did, I was dead. And like Freddy comes back and he like zones 3 or 4 people. Like for me, he was the MVP of the game, even if he got insanely focused. And then we were just like, I don't know, like dead man walking, like for me. Like we were just ready to die.
Yeah, you guys, this was definitely the turning point where you guys could take it under control. You actually went for Baron straight after. You guys were pretty low. Reckless was actually the only man standing on the outside. If that would have been reverse roles, if you would have been on the outside, would you have gone in more and try to mess it up for them?
I don't know. I would maybe try to bait some spells, like something that could actually CC me or keep me in touch, so they could just goal me and burst me in a second. But I think he should have suicided for the Baron there. But in the end, like when I dashed on him and he got almost one-shotted, I understood that he had no power there, so our Baron was ours.
But like that call was extremely bossy, to be honest. who's making those calls, actually?
All of us. We were a team that was playing from behind, like up to a point the score was 2-10 and 2 kills for us and 10 kills from them. And the moment they did a mistake, we just capitalized on it and we made the game like it is 10-2 for us.
Right.
We focused a lot about Reckless versus you in that matchup. We also had a feature of Reckless beforehand saying how good you were last time you were already in the LCS. How much does that play a factor for you once you're in that game?
It feels pretty nice to have a competition and someone that is equal or better. Like even if I say, like, let's say that I'm the best bot by far, it doesn't matter. It's up to people to judge who is the better. And it's really nice to have competition with someone that I respected. I and honestly know that if we fit him or if he gets a game to play with, he will be equal or more in team impact or game impact on me. So it feels
were you a little mad he took away the Graves, or?
Huh? I didn't expect it, but when I saw his match history that he has like 6 games in a row with Graves, I understood why.
It was like, damn, he's going to take that from me. You guys right now 6-0. The longest winning streak we ever had in the European LCS was Fnatic. 9 games in a row in the spring split of 2013. There are less games in a split now, but how far do you think you can go? In other words, is there any competition for you in Europe?
Obviously, like I think Rocket and Fnatic and Elements are really good teams by their own sides and by their own advantages and flows. And I think that at some point, as the season will progress, some of the teams that went in and are new to the LCS will just fall a bit apart. And like the traditional forces, let's say Fnatic or Elements or Rocket, will just step up their game and they will become better teams. And this means that everyone that sees League of Legends in Europe, they will enjoy it more.
Yeah, absolutely. The league is absolutely crazy right now. Anything else you want to ask for Given, your good buddy?
Why did you die yesterday?
I don't know.
You can't do that, man. You can't do that. But well played anyways.
Yeah. I have to say something because he was like the player that I respected the most in CW. I wish him that he joins LCS again. And even if we are not teammates, we are big opponents, so it's even better.
Yeah, it's going to be great, and it might happen. But for now, you guys are in the spotlight. 6-0 SK Gaming Forgiven. Congratulations. Fantastic performance. With a third of the split behind us, let's pull up the standings and see where things are. SK Gaming, they still hold first place with an undefeated 6-0 streak. Fnatic are in the number 2 spot at 5-1, with Elements right behind them at 4-2. And meanwhile, Gambit are no longer alone in the bottom spot, where they are tied with Meet Your Makers at 1-5. And of course, we have the Copenhagen Wolves. They're going 3-3 here. It must be good for you to see as well that they are stepping up. Amazing.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it's actually a good feeling to see Jambak and Unlimited succeeding again, because these two people, they helped me grow into the role that I had on Copenhagen Wolves, to help Forgiven grow into a competitive player too. And they basically gave me assistance in a time where I didn't really think I would get any offers. So I respect them highly for the decision making in terms of recruiting talent. Hopefully I was a talent, but it just makes me happy to see them succeeding and actually being happy about the game again, because wins do that for you.
They absolutely do. And while that's well and good for SK at the top of the tables, let's look at how today could swing your fantasy team towards a win in this week with 14 kills, 11 assists, and a triple kill as Graves earlier today. The Week 3 Day 2 fantasy leader in Europe is Gambit Gaming Pinoy with a total of 52 points. Congratulations to him. And, well, good for Gambit on getting themselves on the board as well.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, they've been struggling so far, but I heard the screams from Gambit up to here. They were so happy about that win, and obviously the old guard racking up some wins is pretty good for the confidence too.
All right, and while there was a lot of big play this week, 5 players stood above the rest as OP players. Our top 5 players for this week are first up, Woolite from Rocket. He definitely found himself in this one last week on the hyper carries late game. This time Graves and I believe it was Lucian. I can't really, but it was a very good performance for him. Twice Graves actually.
Definitely for him. Like last week, I didn't really like him on the hyper carries because I have played with Woolite in the past, and he seems to be a bit over-aggressive at some points. So putting him on a hyper carry can risk you the game, but if he's able to get the early game priority and translate that into a good mid game, he's gonna roll over his enemies, and that's what he did this week.
Yeah, and secondly, it's a teammate of him, Yukdog, also for Rocket in that mid lane, showing some very much impressive Kassadin play. Seems to be his go-to pick for now, and it is working out.
Yeah, exactly. For Rocket, it seems to be good to have a stabilized mid lane, which just skates safely into the late game, because Rocket has been struggling with actually having LeBlanc mid, building mages, etc. Like actually translating that into mid-game and late-game control. But this Castellan kind of gives them safety in the mid lane and allows them to advance the game on other points.
Yeah, our next OP player is Forgiven. We just talked to him, and to be honest, it is a hard discussion. Maybe you should have had MVP, but definitely OP. We had him here on the desk, so confident, and actually a little bit more toned down. I think that he's really settling in his role and knows that his team behind him is incredibly strong.
Yeah, exactly. He just shows confidence. He doesn't seem to be edgy or anything like that. He just knows that the team that he's playing on right now has the potential to not just be the best in Europe, but potentially be a threat at Worlds.
Next one that is up is Shook. His play here today on Rengar and yesterday was lethal. Didn't come through the end, but you said it as well. If he's able to get going early, he loves doing that, and he can really get his team rolling.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Shook when he gets kill priority lanes and actually kill lanes where he has a CC coming in from his mid lane or from his top lane. Like we saw the same thing with Lee Sin Irelia combo at Worlds, for example, which they harmonize beautifully with. Shook is someone that if you give him the right combo, he's gonna snowball because he knows how to do it from solo queue, from hours of playing it. And he's gonna carry the game. And he tried pretty hard today. They were ahead at some point, threw a bit, but nonetheless, Shook had a lot of early game impact, and you really gotta give him credit for that.
Yeah, you mentioned the snowball. Our last OP is Freeze on Draven today. Fantastic performance. After he got that first blood, he was like, yes, I am going to carry this.
Yeah, he just saw the gold raining upon him. He's like, yeah, this game is OVER. And really translate that into beautiful late game team fighting, especially with the combo of Soren, who played a beautiful Cassiopeia, and the team around him, like operating around him, him forcing the team to operate around him.
Yeah, and a 2-0 for the Copenhagen Wolves in that one. But of many, one reigns supreme, our Week 3 MVP with a 5.6 KDA and a 97% kill participation in 2 games is none other than SK Gaming's Svenskeren. Now, we had to discuss a little bit about it, but in the end, Svenskeren is setting up so much for that team. He was the first one to pull out the Nidalee jungle and make it happen. Today here on Jarvan, once again, we can't praise him enough.
Exactly. Like yesterday, he basically solo carried the early game, made Lulex seem like a little spider down there, like being flushed down the drain. And today, again, his engages and his decision-making in teamfights basically carries SK throughout the bad phases that they had during this game. And I don't know who the shot caller is for SK, but it's Forgiven said, like everyone does the calls, especially when you're behind. Like I actually want to give it to the whole team, but you just can't do it. Svenskeren just stands out because he solo carried yesterday and did a really good comeback today.
Yeah, SK Gaming doing well. And what a week overall here in the European LCS. But we will continue next week as the Giants Gaming take on Gambit. And the Unicorns of Love will go up against Roccat as they jockey for a position in the middle of the table. Any matchups you have your eye on? We see that Unicorns of Love, Roccat. Copenhagen Wolves are up against SK. That'll be
actually, that would be an interesting matchup because we have so many ex-CW players like walking around the stages here, like Woolite, then you have Freeze, like who's a current CW player. But like you have so many people that have been on CW, and seeing Forgiven facing his old team is really like it's gonna show his poise because he must have been mad after that spring split. Maybe I had something to do with it too, so sorry for that. But he's gonna come out and try to prove a point that he is the best AD carry and no AD carry can replace him.
That's actually why we got you over here, just reunion time and having fun.
Thank you.
No, just kidding. And of course, those games out of the European LCS next week, they all start at 6 p.m. Central European time, and that is 9 a.m. Pacific. But you won't have to wait until then for more LCS. The North American League Championship Series picks back up tomorrow at 9 p.m. Central European time, noon Pacific, with Gravity versus Team Impulse, and Winter Fox will go up against Counter Logic Gaming to close out the day. Well, you'll be seeing your buddies TSM there again as well. Any match or any game that you're looking forward to? Yeah,
obviously the TSM game. Like I really was doubting like how TSM could actually like reproduce their success in the late stages of the season 4, where we basically qualified for Worlds. We did well there, and then they had the kind of slump after I left when they played at IEM. Got demolished by Unicorns of Love, but they seem to have caught themselves so well, and I just want to basically see them happy because, quite frankly, they are my ex-teammates, and you can never root against them. They're all great personalities, and I'm going to look forward to that Dignitas TSM game, especially because Dignitas has a replacement coming in for Crumbs, as far as I know, and it's going to show whether or not that was the right move to go.
It's fantastic of you to see all that love you have for all your own teammates. Wishing them all well. Until
I got too many of them. Right now.
Well, that all starts tomorrow, but if that still isn't soon enough, you can head over to the Challenger VOD hub right now at lolesports.com to see every qualifying match for the upcoming Challenger Series season. Amazing, your team Origen just qualified early this week. Congratulations, it was a close one, but how do you think that the rest of that is going to go and your chances on getting in the LCS here?
I think they're going to be good because we have scrimmed a lot of LCS teams. We have scrimmed all of the Challenger teams, or most of them, and we have gotten good records against them, so I'm confident in that. But it was really scary, to be honest. Like, I've never felt so much stress in my life. Even this caster disc, I'm completely fine with it. But playing for your job is the craziest thing ever. And I tried to avoid it by joining TSM at some point. Like, you don't have to play for your job anymore necessarily in relegations because you can't expect that.
Hey, you never know.
But well, I'm there again, so I gotta pull through.
Well, on top of that, you also did a fantastic job here on the desk. We're looking forward to seeing Origen fight for a spot in the LCS. Best of luck, of course, for that. And that wraps it up for us here in Berlin. Amazing. Thank you very much once again for lending us your expertise in this one this week. And on behalf of myself and the entire broadcast team, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you on the Rift.
Getting ready to load it up here. This one is going to be an exciting match. I can feel it. Up in the top side, Adri is going to get popped, and Bridal will as well. The Monsoon for the sustain. Every member of Giants is melting. Massive snowball lead for Fnatic. Maybe they can still turn this one around instantly. Oh my goodness, all that damage. The Maelstrom coming up, but Kabushard picking up another kill.
That is going to be a massive confidence boost.
Gaggle Drake. They do take the Baron, but they might pay for this one now. Rales gets evaporated. There's still minions on the base. That's going to be GG. It goes to Rockcats. They are going to land the Solar Flare on. Here comes Airwax, the whirling death, and Freeze is going to cash in on Kikis. The Copenhagen Wolves have done it again. Gonna bail out immediately, but Freddy is around the side. Fox, very low. Emperor's Divide, push them all back, but they've not got the damage to finish off. Yes, they do. Wait just a minute. Best team in Europe stays undefeated.